Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I made this lighthouse top with Fusion 360 and the CNC. To start off this project, we need to make a model in Fusion 360. So what we need to do is we need to come up to Surface. I'm going to click on New Sketch. I'm going to click on this bottom plane. I'm going to make a circle that is 55mm wide because that's what I need. This could be to whatever size you want, and click Finish Sketch. I'm going to go solid and extrude up to 51mm. Now I picked 51mm because I know that it can be divided by 3. Did the quick maths, but that is because I know that my stock is 3mm wide. I'm going to be cutting this out of, or thick should I say. So this could be dependent on your stock. New body, we're going to click OK. And then what we need to do is come up to Surface, create a new sketch on the Z plane. We'll turn off body for the moment. And we're going to make a line. Make sure we turn on construction over on this side. And we're going to come over 1.5mm. Hit enter. We're going to create a rectangle that is 3, and then if we hit tab to change to the other direction, we're going to go 51mm and click enter. And now we're going to make another rectangle. We're going to go 22mm by 3 and hit enter. And 22 was a random number that I made up. Well, sort of, because I know that there's going to be 3 layers of 3mm, and then divide the other part by 2 gives me 21, so 22 just because I want a little bit of a rectangle. So then we're going to go 22 by 3, hit enter, and then we're going to go on a line, come up to this center, it should snap to the center point here. Let's come up 1.5 and make a rectangle that is 22 by 3, then hit enter. So we're going to turn construction off now. And we can come up and make 2 rectangles that fill in this gap and hit Finish Sketch. Now we can turn our body back on. We're going to hit the S key to bring up search, and we're going to go Emboss and click on Emboss. Our sketch profiles are going to be these 2 rectangles, and our faces are going to be the face of the cylinder. Now this is currently embossing the 2 pieces, but we want to deboss them, so we're going to go -2mm and hit OK. Now you see we have these 2 windows in our cylinder. We want to make this go all the way around, so what we're going to do is we're going to click S for search again. We'll go circular pattern. We're going to change our type to features, and we're going to click on our 2 windows, and our axis is going to be this top ring of the cylinder. We want to change our spacing to symmetric. We'll go 360 degrees, and then we're going to adjust our quantity up to we have a similar gap in between. Let's go with that one. That looks pretty close, and click OK. So now we have these windows that go all the way around the cylinder. Now what we want to do is I want to create a cone on the top. So we're going to make another sketch on the Z plane. We're going to make a line, a construction line, and we're going to come up 51mm. Now the stock I'm going to cut the cone out of is 18mm, so I'm going to come up 17mm just to give myself that little bit of a buffer. Now we know that this is 51mm, they are from side to side of the cylinder, and I want it to overhang by 5mm. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a line, and we're going to come over, we're going to go 51 divided by 2 would be 25.5. So 25.5 plus 5 will be 30.5, and hit enter. Then we can get another line and we can bring up that and finish the triangle. Now you'll see that this didn't turn blue in the middle. That's because I didn't think, and I didn't turn off construction over here. So we're going to turn off construction line, and we're going to quickly redo these lines. And you'll see that's now turned blue in the center. So we'll click Finish Sketch. And what we want to do is we want to come up to solid and click revolve. Now our axis is already selected because that's the last sketch that we were working on. Our profile we're going to change, our profile is already selected because that's the last sketch we're working on. Our axis we're going to actually change to this cylinder, and that's going to give us a 360 degrees cone. We want to change our operation to new body and click OK. And there we have a cone on top. Now the last thing I want to do for this little light is to have a plate that the whole thing sits on. So what we'll do is we'll come up to surface and make a new sketch. We're going to rotate underneath. And when you use this rotate tool, you can click escape to close out of it. And we want to select the bottom of the cylinder, not a plane, but the bottom of the cylinder. And that's going to make us draw on the cylinder. So let's make a circle. We're going to come out 60 and hit enter. And then I want to make another circle. I'm going to make another circle that comes out 40 because I want this to be a, let's go 50. I want this to be a ring, not a full plate. So we'll click finish sketch. Let's rotate this up a little bit. And then we're going to extrude this out and make sure we click both of these rings, otherwise it's going to only extrude that one. And we're going to come down 3mm, change it to new body and click OK. So now we have our little light with a ring plate on the bottom and a cone on the top. So now how do we cut this on the CNC? We can't just slice it down the middle of the CNC, down the middle of the model and lay it on the two flat edges, because our issue then is that if we were to cut this like this, we might be able to cut in these little sections here, but again, that's probably not going to get into the corner properly and it's going to cut this not straight. But we're definitely not going to be able to cut under this part, like this part of the window here over here with the CNC. So we need to cut it in layers. Pretty simple process, just takes a little bit of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on offset plane. We're going to click on the bottom plane. Let's bring this around to the front just to make it easier. All right, yep. So that's easier to select this, to the back. So we're going to click this plane on the bottom and we're going to come up 3mm and hit OK. Again, offset plane, select the bottom plane and we're going to come up 6mm and we're going to keep incrementing by 3mm. Now, if you don't want to do the maths in your head, you could also just go 3 plus 3. That's also going to give you the 6mm and hit enter. We're going to repeat this process until we get to the very top. Okay, so now we have all our planes. You will notice that I haven't set a plane for the very bottom of the cylinder and I haven't set a plane for the very top of the cylinder, just all of the planes in between. So now what we want to do is we want to come up to, let's turn off the cylinder, the cone on top. We'll turn off the ring on the bottom just so we can see better what we're doing. Come up to modify and we're going to click on split body. Our body is going to be our cylinder. And then we'll click on splitting tools and we'll open this construction tree here. We're going to click on plane 1 and then hold shift and click on plane 16 and click OK. We can turn those construction planes off now. And what you can see is we now have all of these little 3mm plates and all of these bodies on the side. So now we need to lay these out so we can cut them out of a piece of stock on the CNC. Pretty simple process, again repetitive just like the planes, but let's turn body 3 back on because that's going to be cut in this piece of material as well. And what we'll do is we'll click on body 1, click on move, and we're just going to move it over, let's go 65mm and hit enter. Now body 3 stays where it is, body 4 can come over, we're going to go 65 plus, let's go plus 60 and hit enter. Again, body 5, I'm going to move it over and we're going to go 65 plus 60 plus 60 and hit enter. Before we hit enter, you can see here that it says 185. That is the total that it has moved. So what we need to do next time is just go 185 plus 60 rather than adding on plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 every single time. So we're going to repeat this until we have a couple of rows. We'll also move pieces over this way so we have a couple of rows to fit onto our sheet. Alright, so now we have all our bodies spread out along a sheet. The issue we have now is they're not all on the same plane, and the CNC is going to try and cut them all out of a really thick piece of wood. So what we need to do is we need to align them all on the same plane. We can click S for our search and go align. We want to click on the piece that we want to move, and then click on the piece, make sure we click on the face, not the ring. And we want to move it up in line with this piece here. We can then right click and click repeat align, and we're going to move our way along until every piece is at the same plane. Okay, now we have them all on the same plane. We can click OK, and you'll notice that I didn't have to click OK for every single piece. I just right click and click to repeat align, and that automatically moved on to the next piece. I didn't have to click OK for every single one. So now that we have them all aligned, we need to create a cut file. So what we'll do is we'll come up to design, we'll click on manufacture, and we need to create a setup. Now what we'll do is we can create, we can come down and click model, nothing. We're going to come up and open this tree here, click on body 1, hold shift, click on body 19. But we want to unselect body 2 because we're going to cut that out of a different piece of stock. And then come up to our stock. I want to change this to fixed size box. Width we'll just leave that as is. Depth we can leave as is, but we want to change our height to 3mm. And I like to change my model position to -Z and 0 offset. Now you'll see here that it says model height 3mm. That is very important because that means that all of these pieces are on the same plane, as we know they're all 3mm. If it was a different number, that means that one or more pieces is either too high or too low. So we can click OK. Let's minus down this tree here. And we want to create a 2D contour. Now what we need to do is pick our tool, which will go for a 2mm down cut 2 flute. I'm going to change my cutting feed rate to 2000. Geometry, now we need to select all of our contours, which we want to make sure we select the bottom ring of every piece. Now this is going to tell the machine the lowest point that it needs to cut per contour, so you need to make sure you select the bottom and not the top. Make sure we select this inner ring as well. Now you could turn on tabs if you wanted to. If you click on that, it's going to add little tabs all around every piece. But I'm going to actually stick down my stock with double-sided tape, so I don't need tabs. Heights we're going to leave as they are. Passes, we're going to make sure that nothing is selected except for multiple depths. Because I'm using a 2mm bit, I want to step down 1mm at a time. If I was using, say, a 6mm bit, 3mm down is not too big of a deal, and I wouldn't need to do multiple depths. So we're going to click OK, let that make our cut file, and then we're going to come up and click on Simulate, and we can simulate this cut, and by moving this little circle here, we can change the speed of the simulation. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that this green bar down here is completely green and has no red. If there's red, it means there's an issue with the cut, being that the bit can't get to somewhere, or it's going to hit the stock or something like that. But that looks fine, it's all green, so we're going to click close. We can right click and go machining time. We know it's going to take 6 minutes. Now keep in mind that the free personal use of Fusion 360 does restrict speeds. So 6 minutes, it says here, is probably going to be more like 8 to 10 minutes on the actual CNC. So now we can right click that and go post process. I'm going to click post. Now I like to save mine in a folder, which is in here, CNC projects. So let's create a new folder. Hit enter. We'll open that up. Now I like to name my files the bit that I'm going to use, the stock I'm using, and what it is. So I'm going to go 2mm bit, 3mm stock, and then contour white, and hit save. Now you'll see here it says when using Fusion 360 for personal use, the feed rate of rapid moves is reduced to match the feed rate of cutting moves, which can increase machining time. So this is what I was saying before about using the 6 minutes is going to be a little bit longer. Just something to keep in mind. Now we need to create a cut file for our cone. So we'll come back up to design and we're going to turn on body 2. Let's rotate down a little bit. And we're going to hit search and align. We're going to bring this down to the same height as the rest of our material. Doesn't matter that much, but I just like to do it for peace of mind. Click OK, rotate back up, and we're going to move body 2 just away from the rest. It doesn't matter where. And then we can come back up to manufacture. We're going to create a new setup. We're going to change our model to the cone. And we're going to click stock, fixed size box, and that is going to move our stock over to our cone. Now the width and depth don't matter. The height we're going to change to 18mm, and we want to change our model position to 0 offset from the bottom. Now this is more important for this piece because it is smaller in height than it is the actual stock. Now something else I forgot to do on the other cut was to actually move my my box point to the corner, but it's very simple to go in and fix. We can just click OK on this one. That's fine. So let's quickly double click on this setup here, and we will change our box point to this corner. Click OK. We're going to have to double click on contour. Click OK. That's going to rerun that, and we can post process this one here. Double click, save, and replace. So now it's gone back to setup 4. We want to click on this little dot here, and we need to create a 3D adaptive clearing. Now we're going to change our bit to a ball nose, carbide tapered ball nose. Hit OK. I want to change my feed rate to 12,000. Geometry, we're going to leave it as is. Heights, we're going to leave it as is. And passes is where we want to have a little play around. So we're going to turn off stock to leave. And on passes, you'll see here that it says 10mm and 1mm fine step down. I'll leave it like that for 1 minute. Let's click OK. Let it run its post process here. Let it create our cut file. Let's come up and click simulate. We'll make sure these are turned off just so I can show you. I'm going to click play, let it run, and you'll see here that these are very big step downs. This cut on a CNC is going to require quite a lot of sanding. I can tell you now that it will be very rough. So we'll click close, and let's check machining time real quick. 41 seconds, not bad. But let's close that. Let's double click on this square, this little picture. We'll go passes, and let's change our step down to 3mm, which is going to change the fine to 0.3. Click OK. We'll let it run. We can already see here that there's smaller rings, smaller gaps between the rings. So we'll come up and we'll click simulate when that's finished. Let it run. And you can see now that there's a lot finer detail and a lot finer step downs between each layer. This is going to require next to no sanding. You can even go smaller if you wanted to 0.1. This is going to require pretty much no sanding, which is what I want. But something to keep in mind is if I come up to machining time, it's now 2 minutes 10, which isn't bad for this. But if it was originally a 1 hour cut, it's probably going to be more like a 3 to 4 hour cut. So it's just something to really keep in mind of whether you want to spend more time with the CNC going or if you want to spend more time sanding. I don't know about you, but I don't like sanding, so I'd rather CNC do all the work. So now we like what we see there. We can post process. Click post. We'll come into our folder. We're going to go ball nose, 18mm stock, light cone, and hit save. So now we can head over to the CNC. I'm going to show you a quick line time lapse now of cutting on the CNC, assembling, and priming the piece, and I'll see you after. So I just ran down to cut this on the CNC, and I realized that I forgot a very vital part. Something I wanted was for all of these pieces to have 2 holes down the middle, or down in line with each other, that I can run dowel down to make sure that they all stay aligned. Now luckily with Fusion 360 this isn't too hard to fix. What we want to do is we want to come down to this bottom. This is our timeline of everything we've done. We want to scroll across to the beginning. We're going to double click on the first sketch we made, which was the circle. And then we're going to add 2 circles. Doesn't matter where they are. I just want them to be 13mm wide because I know that that's how that's the dowel that I have downstairs. We're going to hit enter and we can finish that sketch. Now that hasn't actually changed anything yet, but what we need to do now is we need to come to our first extrusion, double click on it. We're going to unselect the profiles and we're going to select the new profile which has the 2 circles missing and click OK. And now you see that all of these pieces have these circles, those holes that line up with each other. We need to come back up to manufacture now. We're going to click up on setup 3. You'll see there's this red exclamation point. That is telling me that the file has changed after post-processing, or after creating the cut file, not necessarily post-processing, just creating the cut file. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up and double click on this picture here. We're going to go to geometry, and I actually need to add in all of these circles. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we select the bottom of every circle. Okay, so I've done that. I'm going to click OK. That's going to make a new cut file that's going to include those circles. And then we can post-process that again. Click post, come in, and we can just overrun that cut. Click yes. And now we have our new file. Okay, that's it for this video. Hopefully you got something out of it. Now I will say that I did make this smaller version of the lighthouse top, but it didn't align real well, and that was one of the biggest issues I had. That's why I decided to add the dowel in the middle, and I'm a lot happier with how this bigger version came out. I will say too that the small version I made is actually smaller than what I needed, so I had to remake it anyway. But adding those dowels down the middle actually really helped with alignment, and it came out so much better. Now this is just primed at the moment. It is going to get a coat of paint, and I'm going to add some vinyl into all the squares, some white vinyl, so they look like windows. But essentially that's it. It's done and dusted. It's a very simple process. It was good being able to come back and add in the dowel holes that I needed to, because I completely forgot about them. And yeah, that's about it. So you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and if you follow me on Instagram you'll get to see what I actually made this for, because it is for a secret project. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, help with the analytics with YouTube, get my name out there for more people to be able to see it, and I'll see you next time.